Hello everyone, welcome to the Bodhi Academy. In today's video, we are going to continue with the Standard 12 Biology Chapter 14 Ecosystem. So far in this chapter, we have learnt about the ecosystem structure and function, then decomposition, energy flow, then the biological pyramids, ecological pyramids, and in today's video we are going to talk about ecological succession. So let us begin. Ecological succession, so the gradual and fairly predictable change in the species composition of a given area is called the ecological succession. So it is the slow or the gradual and fairly predictable change that takes place in the species composition, means the number or the types of species of plants or animals which are present in a given area is called as ecological succession. Now during succession, some species colonize an area and their population becomes more numerous, whereas population of the other species declines and even disappears. So during the ecological succession, one species may colonize an area and their population or the number may grow, or some other species which was existing in that area, their number may decrease or reduce and they may even go extinct. Then orderly and sequential change that leads to a community that is near equilibrium is called as climax community. So now ecological succession are of two types, that is primary succession and secondary succession. So primary succession starts when no organism are there. So there are no organisms, so it starts on a barren land. So for example, bare rocks or cooled volcano, etc. So on such places the primary succession begins. Then secondary succession occurs in areas where the living organisms have lost due to certain reasons. Okay, so here the living organisms or whatever plants or animals which were there, they may have lost or they may have died due to certain reasons like forest fires or earthquakes. So on these lands which are affected by the forest fires or the earthquakes, where the organisms which were living or which were present in that land that have lost or that have died, on that area when succession begins, that is called as secondary succession. Then talking about the succession of plants. Now on the basis of nature of habitat, succession of plants can be grouped as hydride succession or xeroid succession. So hydride succession, it takes place in wetter areas and the successional series progresses from hydric to mesic condition. So it basically, hydride succession means it takes place in water. For example, here this is an example of primary succession which is taking place in water. So first we have this water body in which the phytoplanktons will be there. Then after that the submerged plant stage will arise. Then submerged plant as well as free floating plants will start to grow. Then reed swim stage, so some more plants will start to grow in this water. Then the marsh meadow stage. Now slowly we can see the water is disappearing and the plant growth is increasing more and more. Then after this is the shrub stage. So here we can see more and more plants are growing in that area or on that land. And then finally the forest stage, where the land is completely occupied by big trees as well as shrubs and herbs. Then Xerite succession is the one which takes place in the dry areas, and series progresses from xeric to mesic condition. So from very dry areas it will turn into the forest. So talking about this primary and secondary succession. Primary succession initiates in area where organisms never existed, that is the bare or barren areas. Then the absence of soil, humus and reproductive structures of organisms. So it begins where there is absence of soil or humus or any reproductive structures of organism. Then it takes a long time, that is several hundred years of several hundred to thousands of years to reach the climax stage, that is the final equilibrium stage. Then talking about secondary succession initiates in areas where communities are recently destroyed. So example, earthquakes or volcanoes. Then the presence of the soil, humus and reproductive structures of organisms of previous communities. So whatever organisms have died, there is presence of these structures of organisms. Then also there is presence of soil and humus. Then the secondary succession takes comparatively less time, that is about 50 to 200 years to reach the climax or the stable equilibrium stage. So the species that invade a bare area are called as pioneer species. So when we talk about primary succession, those species which will invade a bare or a barren area are called as pioneer species. So in primary succession on rocks, lichens are the pioneer species. So the pioneer species on rocks are the lichens, which are a symbiotic association between the fungi and the algae. Now these species that secrete acids to dissolve the rock for withering to form the soil. So basically these lichens will invade the barren area, that is the rocks. They will secrete some acids which will break down or dissolve the rocks to form the soil. Now in primary succession in water, the pioneer species are the small phytoplanktons that are replaced by free floating angiosperms. So pioneer species in water are the small phytoplanktons which are there, which are able to produce their own food using the sunlight. So these are later replaced by the floating angiosperms. So primary succession is a slow process as soil is not available for the pioneer species, but secondary succession is comparatively faster as there is availability of soil and other nutrients. So as we know, soil and the nutrients are very essential for plant growth. So secondary succession is much faster as there is presence of soil, humus and other nutrients. So a climax community is reached much faster in case of secondary succession. So as I have already told, it is much faster to reach climate community in secondary succession. Then talking about the next part, that is the nutrient cycling. So the movement of nutrients, nutrient elements through the various components of ecosystem is called as nutrient cycling. So it is also called as biogeochemical cycles. So basically the movement of nutrients through the various components of ecosystem, meaning through the soil or earth, atmosphere, water and through the living organism. When the movement of nutrient takes place, it is called as nutrient cycling. So these are of two types. First one we have is the gaseous cycle, and it exists in the atmosphere, and the second one is the sedimentary, which exists in the earth's crust. So these nutrient cycles are affected by the environmental factors like soil, moisture, pH, temperature, and also these regulate the rate of release of nutrients into the atmosphere. So the first cycle that we are going to see is carbon cycle. So carbon cycling occurs through atmosphere, ocean and through living and dead organism. So the whatever movement of carbon which takes place on earth through atmosphere, ocean or through living or dead organism is called as carbon cycle. So most of carbon is fixed by plants during the process of photosynthesis and returns to atmosphere again in the form of carbon dioxide during respiration. So when we give out carbon dioxide during respiration, the carbon returns to the atmosphere, carbon dioxide. Then again, burning of wood, forest fire and combustion of organic matter, fossil fuel and volcanic activity are other sources of releasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So along with respiration, burning of wood, forest fire, combustion of any organic matter, fossil fuels and all, or even volcanic activity, these are all the other sources which return carbon dioxide or carbon to the atmosphere. So here this is the cycle. We have carbon dioxide in atmosphere. It is fixed into the water or as calcareous sediments or organic sediments by the process of photosynthesis, in this case aquatic food chains. Then carbon dioxide in air is also taken up by the terrestrial plants during photosynthesis. Then burning of forests, fuel wood and organic debris will again return oxygen to the atmosphere, as well as combustion of fossil fuels for vehicle and electricity. Also it will return the carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So this is how the cycling of carbon dioxide takes place on earth. Then the second cycle is phosphorus cycle. So the natural reservoir of phosphorus is rock which contains phosphorus in the form of phosphate. So phosphorus or phosphates are present in the rock and it contains phosphorus in the form of phosphates. Then on withering of these rocks, minute amount of phosphates dissolve in the soil solution and are absorbed by the roots of the plants. So from rocks, the phosphate particles which are there, after these rocks have withered, these phosphate particles will mix with the soil and then they will be taken up by the plants. So the waste products of dead organisms are decomposed by bacteria to release the phosphorus or to return the phosphorus back into the nature. So after these plants and other organisms have decomposed by bacteria, it will again release the phosphorus into the cycle. So gaseous exchange between organisms and environment is negligible as compared to the carbon. So in case of phosphorus, gaseous exchange is negligible. Then talking about ecosystem services. So the product of ecosystem processes are called as ecosystem services, and these include the healthy forest ecosystem which purify the air and water, then mitigates flood and drought. So because of this healthy forest ecosystem, it will also mitigate the floods and droughts. Then cycle nutrients, just as we have discussed, the nutrient cycling is also done. Then generate fertile soil. Fertile soil is also a ecosystem services, as it is a product of the ecosystem processes. Then provide wildlife a habitat and also maintaining the biodiversity. So these all come under the ecosystem services. So hope you have understood this chapter. This is all in this chapter, ecosystem services. So thank you for watching my video. Please like, share and subscribe to the Buddhi Academy.